what can we draw from what Qatar has done? At the end of the day, this is a small country somehow. However, they secured the World Cup. That's besides the point here, right? Whatever they did, we don't know, but they secured it. And then after that, they stuck to their principles, and that's what I am personally most amazed about. And they played it strategically. There was no discussion of banning alcohol beforehand. As far as I've been told, it was only 2 days before that they mentioned this point, and that was too late. Everybody had brought their tickets. Many people had already there. You don't cancel something. So they played it very strategically. And then they stuck to that there will be no, that it was banned in the stadiums. At least in the stadiums it was banned. They may have allowed it in certain very restricted cases or restricted places, but not in the stadium. And of course there was an uproar about that. But then there's been so many positive reactions to that it's just creates a much better atmosphere. The women and children feel a lot more secure because there are no rowdy, drunk people after a match going and causing nuisance, or within the match causing a nuisance. And you just see that and compare that to many other matches where the drink is flowing freely, and then what would happen in that, because everybody really knows that drink does cause those kind of things. You might want to be blind to it for a while when you want to indulge, just like we know that too much cheesecake is bad, but then we just ignore that part when we want to enjoy it for some time. There's no comparison between cheesecake and wine, by the way, or beer for that matter. So they played it very, very well. Everybody, when I heard, and I said I'm not into football, I don't do any of this kind of stuff, but when I heard that the BBC did not show the opening ceremony, I got curious. I said, what was so bad about this ceremony? They didn't want to show it. And then I realized. And if you look at this, and I looked at it, I just scanned through it. And what I noticed in there is that there were very few women represented in there. Right? There were very, very few women, if at all. Of course, there was a bit of music. There was a lot of drum music. I saw this guy playing a drum or something like that. And Allah Ta'ala forgive us. And then it was mostly dark. So you couldn't really see individuals. You couldn't really see much nakedness at all. I mean, I don't think there was much nakedness. There wasn't much nakedness at all. Right? So I think all of that was premeditated. Because while I was looking at this, or looking for this, I saw opening ceremonies of other World Cups. And right, straight away, you can tell the big difference. There's just so much nudity. There is just so much more being displayed in the other ones. If you look at the Beijing or whatever, it's a massive deal. I think this is premeditated. And then, mashallah, to have started with a verse of the Quran, right? For the first time ever, something like that on such a. Because when BBC doesn't want to do something, you know that something's probably happening which is right, right? So those are the things that I noticed from there, that it must have been very premeditated. It wasn't something, I mean, I would expect that other countries who may have won it to may have not had that principled stance. They would have just outsourced all of this. Qataris outsource everything, such as what the Gulf countries do. I mean, it's Indians and Pakistanis and Bangladeshis and Westerners that are doing everything down there, but it seems like they had a grip on all of this. They managed the whole thing. That means stick to your principles. Now, I know that there could have been abuses, and there could have been all of the other stuff, and there could be a truth to all of that, and maybe it is true, part of it and all of that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, we want to look at the positives of it, because there's negatives and positives in everything. We can't dismiss the positives just because of some negatives. We call out the negatives, but it's very important to understand the positives. And if Muslims feel good about this, it brought a lot of the nations together that were supposed to be enemies before. When one team won, they all came together, because you felt like, when Morocco wins, people think, Muslims get happy. When Tunisia wins, Muslims get happy, even though they may have never been to Tunisia, they may have never been to Morocco. There's this global affinity within the ummah. I know this isn't some major battle or something like that, but at the end of the day, this is a little thing that people have enjoyed. And the major thing is that they prepared it in a way, if it's true what they say, I haven't been there, but from people, reports, the da'wah that has taken place for a lot of the people that went there. So maybe there may have been less people from the Western Europe, but a lot of people from South America and a lot of other countries have turned up there. They still have full stadiums. And mashallah, so many people converting to Islam, being able to see a Muslim way of life. And that's really important to see, because the Qataris are really apparently showing a lot of their hospitality and serving the people, talking to them, welcoming them. And that is amazing because that is Muslim lifestyle. And the whole thing has in the West become a Muslim thing, a Muslim issue, not just a Qatari issue. Clearly it's anybody who's critiquing it from the West is critiquing it because it's Islamic. And they don't want that to happen, but it was too late. After they secured it, I don't know how many years ago, it was just too late. So from this, the one thing that has really come out is the hypocrisy. At the end of the day, if you're trying to please someone, you have to realize whether they can be pleased or not, and not at what cost can they be pleased. I think we really have to understand that. And once you understand that, then you realize whether it's worth trying to please somebody or not. Whether it's worth spending your whole life sacrificing, giving up, chopping, destroying your own principles because you want to please somebody for what? For a little few, for a little few gains, right? And yet there's other people who don't do that, and alhamdulillah, they still survive and they still are successful. But they win the dunya and the akhirah. And if you make those kind of sacrifices, where you have to give up your principles, you might win a bit more of the dunya. You may become Mo from Muhammad for a few days, of your life, or Sam from Aslam. But at the end of the day, what's going to be there for them the hereafter? Because you've already tried to get what you want and not had the sacrifice. Allah tests us. So I think this really teaches that a little small country like that, stick to their principles.